Kiše kao da slika. Smeđa, zelena, ljubičasta. Samo su neke od boja koje su našle odraz u njegovim romanima, poeziji i dramama. Jun Fose rođen je 1959. u Haugesundu, na zapadu Norveške, a završio je studije književnosti i filozofije u Bergenu. Moćna priroda, ćudljivo more, teške kiše i vetrovi, nestvarni tamni pejzaži kroz koje prosijava svetlost, kao da su sami uplovili u njegovo delo. Prvi roman, Crveno-crno, objavio je 1983. 10 godina kasnije objavljuje prvu dramu I nikada se nećemo rastati. Zanimljivo je da Jun Fose postaje poznat najpre po svojim komadima koji se danas igraju širom planete i koji mu donose epitet najizvođenijeg norveškog autora nakon Henrika Ibzena. U njegovom žanrovski i tematski bogatom opusu izdvajaju se romani Jutro i veče, Melanholija, Trilogija, Septologija, zbirka poezije Pas i anđeo, te drame Ime, Varijacije smrti, Ja sam vetar. Za svoje stvaralaštvo dobio je veliki broj norveških i internacionalnih nagrada, uključujući i onu najveću, Nobelovu nagradu za književnost za 2023. godinu. U obrazloženju Nobelovog komiteta navodi se da je reč o autoru koji u svojim inovativnim dramama i prozi daje glas onom neizrecivom. Jun Fose živi povučeno na 4 evropske adrese. U Hajnburgu Ander Donau, gde je napisao roman Septologija, gradski park nosi njegovo ime. Vezan za sve što je voda, more, okean, reka, Fose deo svog vremena provodi u tom gradiću u Austriji, gledajući Dunav.
Jun, I'm very happy to meet you in Hajnburg under Donau. It seems to me that you like to come back to this small town in Austria.
Yeah, you know, some 10-15 years ago, my wife and I, we bought a flat here in Hajnburg. And since then, the first years we lived most of the time. In later years, we mostly for holidays or for shorter periods, because we have a daughter going to school in Oslo.
So you spend your every holiday here? I mean, I'm talking about summer holidays.
Yeah, in the last 15 years or so.
And why do you like it so much?
We just, it was accidentally almost that we ended up in Hajnburg. My wife is from Bratislava, and she knew about this town, and she thought it was a beautiful small town, and it actually is.
Is your life different when you are in Bergen and when you are in Oslo and in Hajnburg? What is your life like in those places?
You know, in Oslo, I'm so lucky or unlucky to live close to the Norwegian king.
Yeah, I know that.
In a house in the park
in the very
castle,
center of Oslo.
In the very center. So, and it's a very famous building called the Cave. You are given it for lifetime, if you are given it. And it happened to be me this time. So, okay, it's I love the house, and I managed to organize it so that I can live a very private life there. It's impossible to ring the door, for instance, and yeah. So I have isolated myself as much as possible. And yes, it's nice in many ways, but it's very good to go down to my anonymity here in Hajnburg.
Because you like solitude.
Yeah, I like solitude, yeah. I'm not at all a very social person. I'm a very private person, and I like to hide, and perhaps it's a way to hide that I will have 4 places. Everything I need is in all 4 places, so I can move from one to the next if I want to, like another animal, yeah.
You were born in Western Norway, and I guess that nature is beautiful there.
Yeah.
So I think you feel connected to nature.
Yeah, you know, I grew up by the Hardangerfjord with a view to the fjord, and I have very good memories from growing up, going out with a boat with my father to fish in the fjord. And when we had to walk to school, we were walking along the fjord. We could always hear the sound of the waves. And I also remember in the autumn this complete darkness that covered almost everything, only the light in this house and that house. So my growing up in this area has been very formative for me.
In what colors do you see your childhood?
A lot of
because you're very fond of
a lot
colors.
of darkness and a lot of grayness and blue and yellow, and there's a lot of. It depends on the time of the year, you know. The summers were also very green. I remember there were a lot of nature around everywhere, and what I think was formative for me, it was this. To hear the sound of the waves almost all the time.
Yeah.
The other very formative period, it was when I started studying philosophy and comparative literature when I was around 20. Then I went to Bergenu to the university there. And a couple of years there were also very formative. But basically I am the same as I was as a 12-year-old
You're the
boy.
same as you were?
When I was 12 years, I guess. When I started writing at 12.
You have started writing at 12?
Yeah, and then I thought that I found a kind of secret place inside me from where I could write.
But which are those secret places inside you?
No, but I found that place when I was around 12, 13, 14, 15 years. But now I'm almost 65, so it's 50 years ago. But I'm still writing from this same place. You have to develop both as a person, as a writer, and at least I'm in the lucky situation that I have kept on developing myself, I feel, at least. But still the place I'm writing from is the same.
But how could we call this place inside you?
If you try to figure out and explain such a place, then you destroy it, my friend. So I never try, I never even ask, I just know this place is there. That's all I need to know. And I don't want to touch that place. There are things in yourself you shouldn't touch. There are, of course, things in other human beings that you shouldn't touch, because you destroy it if you touch it.
We were talking about your childhood, and you say at the age of 7, you had a near fatal accident.
Yeah.
You were close to dying.
Yeah, I had a close to death experience because I was about to bleed to death, and I could see myself from out there. It's very hard to describe the way I saw it, and I saw myself in a very peaceful light, and a kind of shimmering light, and it was a very good place to be, and it was a very beautiful view to see myself sitting in the car with my parents. And I even remember I looked at the house where I grew up, and I was thinking that now I see this house for the last time. Yeah, I got that, and I was 7 years at the time, and this perspective from there has also followed me all my life. And I think that was perhaps even crucial
to become a writer.
To become a writer, yeah, or a kind of artist, yeah. This that you see life from in another perspective. I don't know, perhaps. Of course, I don't know such, but I've been thinking that. Det kanskje en underlig vane, dette, at jeg støtt vil se på målerstykker mine i mørket. Ja, at jeg til og med kan måle i mørket. For det skjer noe med et bilde i mørket. Ja, fargene blir borte på et vis, men på et annet vis blir de tydeligere. Det lysende mørket som jeg alltid frister å måle, kommer fram tydeligere. Ja, de mørkere det er, de tydeligere er det som lyser usynlig i et bilde. Og det kan lyse for så mange slags farger, men helst for de mørke Ja, fra svart helst, tenker jeg. Og jeg tenker at da jeg gikk på kunstskolen, sa de at en aldri skulle måle med svart. For det var ingen farge, sa de. Men svart, ja, hvordan skulle jeg vel ha klart å måle bilder mine uten å nytte svart? Nei, det skjønner jeg ikke. For det er i mørket Gud bor.
You started writing your masterpiece novel, Septology, in 2012.
Yeah.
And it's a very big book. There are more than 800 pages written almost in a single sentence. So how did you come up with this story, Septology?
You know, my way of writing is that I just sit down and start writing. I don't plan anything. I don't think. I don't try to figure it out or to plan it. That's thinking, not writing. Writing it's an activity in its own way. So I call it an act of listening. And you ask me for sure, what are you listening to? No, yeah. I don't know, and I don't know. I do not want to know.
Some inner music.
No, it's outside. It's definitely.
Outside.
It's not inside me. It's outside. I'm quite sure, 100%. That's the only feeling I have. It's outside, not inside. But what it is, who knows? I don't know. But at a certain point, I feel that the novel or play or whatever is already written there, and I just have to write it down before it disappears.
Septology is a story of your main hero, Asle, who is living in rural Norway. We can see his everyday life, lonely and monotone, but we could also see his inner life, swamped by the past. That past is very much alive.
It's the past, it's the action that's going on during the 7 days the novel lasts, and all this, in a way, mixed together to a moment of time, I feel myself at least. And this, when I think about the novel, I in a way think about it as it's just a moment in time stretched out, yeah. So, you know, some people talk about the moment of death as a moment where your whole life is passing, and perhaps it could be compared to such a moment in a way. And I'm really happy for writing that novel. I didn't expect it to be any kind of success at all, but it turned out to be a huge success. When my first novels were published, and even my first plays were produced, I had very bad reviews in Norway. I decided, no, I don't care about it. I listen to myself, to what's in me, what's my inner voice in a certain way, and stick to that. You can say whatever you want. And if you say that, if you get a kind of bad reviews and bad response, then you have to think the same when you get good response and a lot of prizes and the like. For instance, the Nobel, yeah. As I've been given.
Yeah. How did you feel when you get Nobel Prize? You were
of course
happy.
I was very, yes, of course I was very, very happy. Of course, I was a candidate for, let's say, 10 years. And when you are a candidate for 10 years and you lose the first and the second, the third, the fourth, and then you don't expect to win the 10th time. At least I didn't.
But you were happy.
Of course I was happy.
You were happy.
Each and every writer in this world, I think, if he or she is not a lunatic, will be very happy to receive the Nobel Prize. But I didn't expect it to get it, but at the same time, to be honest with you, I had a kind of feeling that I one day would get it.
I would like to say something about your main hero of Septology. So his name is Asle. He's constantly thinking about his wife who died young. So he remembers their first meeting, their love, their life, and he's thinking about her as if she were alive. To what extent do we shape our life out of memories?
I think that Asle, he's living a very vivid inner life.
Yeah.
He isn't that much concerned about his outer life. He's concerned about his painting and to manage a daily life, more or less. But he has his inner life is very active. So he isn't living a boring life at all, I feel. He's never bored, I think, even if he's living alone, quite outside civilization in a way. Yeah, he got an old house far from Moćna called Bergenu, and he moved there with his wife, and she died quite young. She's crucial to his life, I would say, but perhaps it's more crucial even to the novel. That is that Asle has a kind of friend, or what to call it, that resembles him quite a lot.
Yeah, there is another Asle.
Asle 1 and Asle 2, as I call it. Yeah.
Who is his age, and who is in fact his doppelganger.
Og så sier Sigve at jeg må gå bort og helse på navnen. Og Asle går bort mot navnen som ser opp. Og Asle tenker at han som sitter likner på han selv. Ja, det har Sigve rett i, tenker han. Og Sigve og Asle går bortover til bordet. Og Sigve sier at han tenkte at de to måtte få helst på en annen. For de ikke helt ulike, sier han. Og navnen reiser seg og rekker handa til Asle og sier Asle. Og Asle rekker fram, sier han, og sier Asle, og det handhelser. Vi heter visst begge Asle, sier Asle. Ja, vi visst det, sier navnen.
Are there two versions of the same life?
They are both painters. They are look the same.
Similar, yeah.
In many ways, and but are living quite different lives in other ways. In the end, it's just two pictures of the same person, if you want, or you can read them as two different persons, if you want. Both ways of reading are possible, I think.
So why do we lead one life and not another one?
Yeah, that's in a way the question.
Yeah.
How there are many similarities between the two of them, but their lives take quite different directions. The one managed to paint his whole life and survive in a certain way. The other one doesn't manage. Yeah, it's two versions of the same life, you could say, in a way. We are basically formed by growing up, of course. We get a language, we get basic impressions of nature, of other peoples, etc., etc. So that's the formation, the main formations. And then good things happen, bad things happen, etc., etc. And all this is in a way forming you as a person. But still, I think the main thing isn't formed, it's there already when you are born. The soul, to use that word, of the human being, it's there from the beginning. Hvor skal vi reise, sier Johannes. Nei, nå spør du som om du fremdeles var i livet, sier Peter. Ikke til noen plass, sier Johannes. Nei, der vi skal nå, der ikke noen plass. Og derfor har den heller ikke noen navn, sier Peter. Er det farlig, sier Johannes. Farlig, nei, sier Peter. Farlig et ord. Det finnes ikke ord der vi skal, sier Peter. Er det vondt, sier Johannes. Det finnes ikke kropper der vi skal, så vondt finnes det ikke, sier Peter. Men sjela, ja, det vondt i sjela der, sier Johannes. Det finnes ikke deg og meg der vi nå skal, sier Peter. Er det godt å være der, sier Johannes. Det hverken godt eller vondt, men stort og rolig og litt sitrende og lyst, og vi nå skal si det med ord som ikke sier så mye, sier Peter.
you write about different cycles of life. There is always the number of 3. So there is always birth, death, and what is in between. So in a short novel of yours, Morning and Evening, you describe 2 days of life of Norwegian fisherman, Johannes. So the first day is the day of his birth, and the second day is the day of his death. And in between, he remembers all those places, important moments he lived.
You know, it was when I was writing all these plays, I feared that I should lose my ability to write fiction, to write prose. And so I decided to write some prose. And I wrote what to write about. Perhaps, why not write about the most extreme existential situations? That's being born and that's dying. And then I wrote the first part, the morning part. Then I put it away, and 2 years later, perhaps, I wrote the second part about the moment of dying, or the process of dying. That was very easy to write because you had so much material you could use when writing that that experience, or what do you call it. It's one of the novels I'm really happy about having written, this Morning and Night.
What does it mean to exist? Mean to be alive?
Yeah. I guess you cannot answer such a question. I could give perhaps a very, very, very stupid and dogmatic answer. Who knows? We are learning about every time, and what is it? And you could say each poem, each novel, everything is trying to say something about what it is to be alive, and perhaps to a certain degree, is there meaning to it, or is there no meaning at all to life? Is it just something happening without any? So you are born, you die. That's it. You appear, you disappear. That's it. But is there more to it than just that? I guess literature is also quite often, not directly, but in the way it's written, by the literary quality, trying to say something about this bigger meaning. In a certain way, it is bigger than life. Yeah, good writing is bigger than life, I think you could say. Dr. Sandberg har sagt at jeg ikke får måle, medan jeg til behandling på Gaustad asyl får jeg ikke måle, har han sagt. Og jeg har sagt at kanskje det på grunn av all målinga mi at jeg blitt galen. Det har jeg sagt til Dr. Sandberg. Kanskje jeg stirrer for mye på landskap i sollys, har jeg sagt til Dr. Sandberg. Og han har sagt at medan jeg på Gaustad asyl skal jeg ikke måle. Den tida jeg skal være der, det forbudt for meg å måle, og målersakene mine måtte levere fra meg ved innskrivinger. De skulle få tilbake den dagen jeg skulle utskrives. Nå jeg måler som ikke får måle.
There is another novel of yours I like very much, Melancholy. Is a novel about the Norwegian painter Lars Hertevig, who lived in the 19th century. What did attract you so much to Hertevig? But first of all, tell me, why are you so attracted by painters?
It has to do with an early fascination for such a simple thing as oil on canvas. This combination, it was I liked it simply. And I also, in these very young years, I played the guitar a lot, and I also painted, and I was drawing and painting. And I was a kind of artist in a way, and I was searching for my...
But visual art, you're very interested in visual arts.
Yeah, I am. Yeah. So, and especially paintings, yeah. And but with Lars Hertevik, it has to do that he's part of my family mythology, or how to put it, because he's a relative of us, or me.
He's a relative of yours.
So, but far away, of course, since but as close as possible. He had no children, so yeah, we have the same grand or something. Yeah.
Yeah, he had a very unhappy life. He died poor and unknown. He suffered the mental illness. Yeah. He lived agonized by unrequited love and by doubts in his art. He was rather an unhappy person.
I don't know.
Full of pains and sufferances.
He had no success, outer success, or very little in his life. But I don't think he, as a person living in Stavanger, a small town in the southern part of Norway, in a very small house, together with his father, the most of his older years, or grown-up years. And they called him, he was called for Crazy Lars. He was doing some work for people as far as he could. He was painting walls and, yeah, cutting woods and stuff like that. And to buy what he needed the most, that was tobacco. He was a heavy smoker. And his best paintings, perhaps, they were, you have a cover of these boxes with tobacco that he bought. Yes. And he took off that cover and he painted on the back side.
Because he didn't have money.
Yeah, because he didn't have money
to buy the oil.
Yeah, and but that by now, I think these small pictures painted on the back of this cover of tobacco boxes are his most valued pictures. Yeah.
I guess you're very fond of his landscapes, and
yeah.
I would say that we could recognize those colors of Lars in your books. Yeah. I have impression that in fact you read his paintings.
Yeah, I do in a way. But his landscape, it's the coastal landscape of this western part of Norway. It's the southern part of this long coast. But basically, it's the same. Yeah, there are many. Yeah, the landscape keeps changing, but it's a coastal landscape at least. So
the landscapes made by Hertevik are full of darkness, but they are also full of light.
Yeah.
And that's what you call shining darkness.
Yeah. I wrote a play called A Summer's Day. In that play, an elderly lady is remembering the day when her husband disappeared on the fjord. At a certain point, she's looking at the fjord and it's dark, and she's starting to understand that her husband will never ever come back. And then she starts to see the fjord in this darkness. That's a kind of light coming from the fjord, and she uses this phrase, the shining darkness, or the luminous darkness. That's where it appeared the first time in my writing. And I thought perhaps that I'd written that it was a new phrase or something like that. But then I read my big favorite and friend, Meister Eckhart, and he had used just the same phrase. And then I learned that in the Christian mystical tradition, it isn't that uncommon, at least to think in that way, the shining darkness. The more down and out, the darker it is, the closest is God or the light in a way. Yeah. For enda om Bibelen litteratur, så han nok mer enn litteratur, tenker jeg. Og selv jeg nok helt på grensa til å være innenfor den katolske kyrkja, tenker jeg. Eller jeg vel helst utenfor, slik tenker jeg. Men likevel har jeg funnet min plass i kyrkja, tenker jeg. Og det å se på meg selv som katolikk, ja, det bare en tru, men det også en måte å være i livet på, og i verden på, som kan likne på det å være kunstner.
The critics have often discussed the role of Catholicism or of religion in general in your work. And in 2012, you converted to Catholicism. So you have passed through different cycles of faith and atheism.
Yeah, you know, when I was 16, I left what was called the Norwegian church, what we call the state church. It was financed by the state. And
you were a believer until the age of 16?
No. I've never. Often you speak that you have a child's belief or something like that. I never had that. I wasn't a believer as a child, not at all. And then I had this strange experience. And,
at the age of 7, yes.
Yeah, and from then on, I felt that what they were preaching and learning, for instance, in the church, it was just bullshit. So when I was old enough to leave the church at 16, I left the Norwegian Lutheran Church. And I wasn't an atheist, but I tried to be one, at least for some years. But then my own writing made me think that where does this come from? What I'm writing, it's not from me. It's not. I'm not clever enough to do it. Where does it come from? What's happening? That has to do with the way that I don't plan anything. It comes to me from the unknown in a way. So I said there is a kind of, let's call it, spiritual dimension, or what to call it, the invisible side of life that exists as a reality. And I started to be concerned about this invisible and unspoken side of life, and felt the need perhaps to meet other people's concern with it. So I joined the Quakers in Bergen. It's a very small community. You have no dogmatics, no priests, no sacraments, no nothing. You just, a Quaker meeting, you just sit in a circle, quiet. And
silent, very silent.
Yeah, you keep silent, yeah. And you try to concentrate on what I call the inner light, or that of God in each and every one of us. I started to be fascinated by the Catholic tradition, and thanks to Meister Eckhart, you could say, and approached the Catholic Church. When I was traveling to all these productions around Europe, I went into churches now and then, and quite often there were sitting people in deep concentration praying. And that made a strong impression on me, the search for what's invisible there, so sincere. And then I went to the Mass, the Catholic Mass, and I started liking it. I thought, yeah, it was a good place to be. But I don't think I converted if it wasn't for my wife, who is a Catholic. Yeah.
It was because of your wife?
Yeah, in the end, I think that was the main. I had many other reasons. I was preparing for it in a way, but...
It's a great declaration of love, I have.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Then I learned more about the practical side of being a Catholic, and like that.
Yeah. But what does it mean to believe in God?
It's impossible to say, because in my view, you cannot say anything about God except for, do you recognize that what you might call God is there, and you can use the name or the concept God and relate to that in a way? So you cannot say more about it in a way, but you can feel the presence of God, I'm sure, quite sure. And you can, of course, feel the lack of God, or the distance to God. Og igjen skjer dette, en hund og en engel, en båt på en sjø, rørslende, nye, gamle igjen. Og igjen rørslende, en båt på en sjø, og de opprivende rørsle i dette. En hund og en engel, og sjøen gammel, for en hund og en engel, en båt på en sjø. Vårt vakreste svarte, for det som ikke ei rørsle, noe svart i ei rørsle.
You write poetry, prose, plays, and I have impression that this is all intertwined. I think that the very nucleus of everything you wrote is poetry.
Yeah, I agree with that. Even if I cannot exactly say what poetry is, you have the epic side, you have the poetic side, you have the dramatic. Approximately, you know what it is. And I'm in this triangle. I'm a poet, I would say. So
in play, you have also tension, and when you write your plays, there are a lot of repetitions, variations, long pauses. Yeah. Long silences. Yeah. And is it a good literary tool for you to create tension?
These pauses, to me as a writer, again, has mainly to do with the rhythm. I feel very strongly if I had to write pause, and even short pause or long pause.
Long pause. Always.
Yeah, I feel it.
Yes.
It's in my body. Yeah. When I'm writing it, I feel it in my body. If it's ought to be short, long, etc. And if I'm writing well, my text is talking in a mute way through the wholeness of it, and. Like a painting again, yeah, I would say.
After everything you said, I have impression that you don't resemble your books. What is your impression?
You might be right. I have this feeling that I'm three persons. I'm the private person, Jun, with my wife and kids and so on, and just quite a very normal guy, I would say. And then I'm a kind of official person that I'm partly know even if I'm trying to speak to you as to anybody else as a private person, but of course it doesn't do it because this is an official situation, and it will be more when it's published. And then the third person is the writer in me, and these persons resemble one another, but they are not the same.
But when you look at Jun, number one. So, Jun, as a private person, what do you think about him? Do you like him?
No, I cannot say I like myself that much. But I'm okay. I'm not the best of human beings at all, but I'm not the worst either. So I'm okay in a certain way. And I'm a very private person and a very shy person. I like to live a quiet life. I like boating, going to the sea. I have kept several boats over the years. I love to have a dog. By some years now, it has been impossible because we have traveled that much.
In your books, I found the sentence, to have a good life, you must have a boat and a dog.
Yeah.
So
I've had 3 dogs. They've all been a dog's life, it's a short life. So it's very, very sad when they are dying after, let's say, 14 years.
And how many boats do you have?
I have, oh yeah, you can ask. In a certain way, I collect them a little bit. These old wooden boats built in the village where I grew up. I'm very fascinated by these old boats. Nowadays, every boats are made by plastic. So I have a boathouse where I have 2 of these old boats, but it's difficult to use them. And then I had 2 small motorboats, but I gave my eldest son one of them. So now I have 3 boats, you could say.
3 boats. Okay, always the number of 3.
Yeah, again.
Again. And there is the question I asked all my writers. Why do you write?
It's what I can do. But I can manage in a certain way after all these years. I'm a very impractical man, so I cannot do that many helpful things in a practical way, at least. So then what's left, it's writing in a certain way. Even when I was young, I didn't want it to be anything in a way. I didn't want it to be a musician, a painter, or a writer. I didn't want it to be anything. That's true. And, but you have to be this or that in the end. I try to be a good human being as far as I manage, and also that my writing can help others in a way. But that's, when I'm writing, I'm not thinking about that, of course. Then I'm only thinking about writing as true and as good as I can. And I'm not thinking about the content at all. But when I'm looking back on it, on everything I published, let's say morning and evening, when I think about that novel, no. Not when I wrote it, but no. But what I'm thinking is, for instance, it doesn't make you more afraid of dying, reading that novel, I think. And that's a good thing, I guess, I hope, yeah, for instance.